Hey, good afternoon on this glorious day. Hope you're enjoying the beautiful weather here in Boston. So this week's Torah portion is the portion of Pikude, which is the last Torah portion in the book of Exodus, the miraculous book of Exodus, where the Jewish people leave the enslavement of Egypt and the exile from Pharaoh into freedom and receive the Torah. And the last verse of the Torah portion tells us that the cloud of glory traveled with the Jewish people wherever they went. And when the cloud of glory would hover over the Mishkan, over the tabernacle, and when the cloud of glory left, the Jewish people would begin to travel. And if it didn't leave, they would stay in the same place. And that's how they knew if it's time to travel from place to place. And then the Torah finishes off because the cloud of glory was upon the Jewish people by day, and the fire of God was with them by night in all of their travelings. L'chol ma'aseim, in all their travelings. And Rashi says, why does he call it ma'aseim? Why does he call it travelings? Because ultimately, even though they were resting, because they were resting to continue traveling, it's considered a travel. So even when you rest, if you're resting is for the intention to continue traveling, it's considered a traveling. And it's actually not just a nuance that Rashi says, but it's a very important message, because what Rashi is telling you is sometimes you think, well, now I'm taking time off, I'm resting, I'm on a detour, I'm having a challenge. But the truth is, if you're constantly in the mode of everything you're doing is for continuing to travel, continuing to accomplish what you have to do, then eventually you will get there. And that's what the message was, that wherever the Jewish people are, in their darkest hours, in their hardest times, in their greatest challenges, God's always with them in all of their travelings, in all of their restings, in all of their challenges. You know, on Tuesday, I was in Florida for the wedding of Gurney's niece. And here back in Brookline, there was a town meeting where they wanted the town to put a resolution calling for a ceasefire and basically condemning Israel, clothed in the sense of protecting young, innocent children and the starving people in Gaza. But anyone that, of course, read the resolution saw that it was bigoted, one-sided, and besides the fact that a town should have nothing to do with political things that are international, which should be left for the government, it was a blatant attempt to make the Jewish people in Brookline feel uncomfortable that their own town is calling against the Jewish people and against the only state of the Jewish people, and it wouldn't even have any impact, only to hurt the Jewish people. Thank God it didn't go through. But then today, you see, besides that, while I was on this Zoom and ended up speaking, many Jews get up and they said, we're Jewish and we're for this resolution, which was very painful, because sometimes, you know, the moment you hear someone say, as a Jew, you know they're going to say something against the Jewish people. And today we saw it again, because Senator Chuck Schumer, who is the Senate Majority Leader and constantly always calls himself the Shomer Yisrael, Schumer as the take as Shomer, he watches the Jewish people, came out in the most shocking way as the Senate Majority Leader, basically calling for new elections in Israel and basically saying that the current government and its makeup and the settlers are extreme, just like Hamas, and we need to get rid of them and get a new government. So besides the fact that no government should ever be meddling with another democratic elected government, and that should be left to Israel. If you agree that there should be elections or not, if you agree that those who were in power on October 7th should take accountability, that's for Israel to decide, and those who live in Israel, not for the American government or anyone that works in the American government. Secondly, it's already been since October 7th. All those who hate Israel and want to criticize Israel, but don't want to look like they're criticizing Israel, blame it on the government. Oh, we love Israel, but we hate the extreme right, Netanyahu. Elizabeth Warren says it. Bernie Sanders says it. And we all know that they don't love Israel. We know they hate Israel, and they criticize Israel every day. So now, Chuck Schumer has joined these ranks and used this as an excuse, as President Biden has used this. And the truth be told like this, that all of Israel agrees that Israel must go into Rafah. Israel has to go in and finish Hamas no matter what, even if it's painful, even if it's going to hurt. Israel has to do it, because if they don't, they lost the war. And the fact that people are telling Israel not to do it just shows us how important it is that Israel actually do it. Secondly, and more importantly, the reality is like this, that all these people who want to somehow demonize those who live in Judea and Samaria, they find 4 people or a little group and they say, oh, we're going to put sanctions on them because they're just like Hamas and they're just like this. They're literally scapegoating Jewish people and communities to placate the progressives and those on the extreme left who are trying to push them away from supporting Israel. It's literally an election tactic. And it's sad, because Israel has been the greatest ally of America for 75 years. It's the only Jewish state and the only place a Jew could feel safe, really, that his people will be stood up for. And here, in an election ploy, we have the leader of the Senate, who's a Jew, and says he's the Shomer Yisrael, or the president, whoever it may be, playing politics with the life of Israel. So let's be clear. This Shabbos we're going to read Chazak and Shul. Chazak, Chazak, V'nis Chazek. And we're going to finish the portion. And the last words we're going to say is that God's cloud of glory was with the Jewish people always, and his fire by night in all their travels. All these people could stand against Israel. It won't change the fact. Israel will be strong and will survive and will thrive. And Israel, and only Israel, will decide when there will be elections and who will be their next president and who will be their next prime minister and who will be their next Knesset. And don't be down, because it's almost Purim. And Purim teaches us that ultimately, that God turns everything over and the Jewish people are victorious. So remember, as we stand in Shul this Shabbos and we say those powerful words, just remember that all these people calling out the government and blaming them, it's all a scapegoat for them, for their election, for their people on the progressive extreme left, the Squad and all those. And Israel has to do what's right, has to close its ears and its eyes and ignore all the rhetoric and do what it's right and make sure that October 7th never happens again to the Jewish people. Am Yisrael Chai, and have a good day.